Okay, Marilyn.
Morning, everybody. Thank you for coming to Visualizing Complex Data in Excel. My name is Marilyn Harris.
And I'm Leif Brenner. I'm a program manager we're both actually, program managers on the Excel team.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk with you about some of our new chart type offerings and give you a couple tips for visualizing your data. So, Leif, did you know that 80% of our customers only use our core chart types? Like line charts, bar charts, column charts.
That's right. Yeah, I knew that actually. I knew that.
Yeah, but maybe you guys didn't.
Yeah.
And it turns out that we actually have a lot more you can do with our charting now in Excel. So, Leif, if you want to start us talking a little bit about the analytic journey and where visualization fits into all the different work you're doing here at the MDIS Summit.
Yeah, so this is typical for both Excel and Power BI, of course. We have some get data experience to get all the data into your application, either Excel or Power BI. You want to analyze those things through either Power Pivot or just in general in Excel to do certain functionality. You visualize those things either in Excel, talk about today, or in Power BI, and you publish those things to either to SharePoint or to PowerBI.com, or you consume it for people to write. Now, we know it's an iteration all the time, right? That's a reality for us, but today we'll focus on the visualizing part of it for Excel specifically.
So there's a couple different ways you could think about grouping the types of visualizations that are useful in a business setting. This set of categorizations offered up by SQL PBI is a way of thinking analytically about how we could use these different visualization types. So we've already covered categories in the past, like comparing things, which you can do with column charts, stacked bar charts, visualizing change over time, which line charts are really good for, ranking and correlations as well, we've already had in the past, but now we've added some new chart types in the areas of visualizing part-to-whole relationships, geospatial data, distributions, and dynamic flows. So in 2016, we added 7 new chart types: tree map, sunburst, histogram, Pareto, box and whisker, waterfall, and funnel charts. These charts are available across our mobile devices, and additionally, most recently, we've shipped 2D region maps. So now, rather than having to buy a really expensive geospatial visualization package, you get the ability to visualize geospatial data right here in Excel. So to use some of these new chart types, we're using data that was generously provided to us by the Seattle Art Museum. Now, for those of you who aren't local, Seattle Art Museum is a cultural gem of the Pacific Northwest. We have some amazing exhibits there that are truly world-class, and we're excited to give you a window into their operating side of the business today. So we're going to use several different new charts to answer the following questions. We'll look at what revenues and expenditures contribute to SAM's bottom line with a waterfall chart, and then we'll follow up by using a tree map to better understand the breakdown of types of tickets the museum sold for its wildly successful Picasso exhibit a couple years ago. Then we're going to move on to using a histogram to visualize the distribution of different ticket prices to better understand which kinds of customers are generating the most revenue. And then finally, we're going to use a 2D regional map to better understand where in the state we sell the most tickets. So we'll hop here over to Excel, and here I have a 2014 financial statement for SAM. And you can see over here that these are 2 different waterfall charts. Now, waterfall charts are really great because you can use them to visualize a sum up to a total, either positive or negative. So we see here on this financial statement that we have all these values adding up to a total operating revenue and some for operating expenses as well. So we'll go ahead and start off by making a waterfall chart to visualize the total operating revenue. We'll come up here to our Insert tab in the Excel ribbon, and we'll go over here to this waterfall icon. And when we enter this chart, immediately Excel has created a chart that is colored green to signify that these are positive values. But we actually see something kind of funny going on here on the right-hand side. And we know this is actually a value, this 26.4 million is actually the total operating revenue. It's not one of these values that sums up to a total. So we can actually click on this data point here, and our formatting pane will pop up. And if we check Set as Total, Excel will reformat this last value, give it a different color, and now we can actually see this relationship of how these all values sum up to a whole. And we can go ahead and do the same thing for expenses, so we have a really complete picture about operating budget. So we'll go up here again to click Insert, put in another waterfall tab, and as you can see, Excel has recognized that these are negative values and colored that red for us. So already we've kind of not only made it really easy for you to create this chart that you could have done before hacking with some of our traditional core chart types, we've also given you this great ability to color it quickly. So we can go ahead here and change this end total value as well by selecting this data point by itself. And then if we right click on it, we can select Format Data Point. And the same formatting task pane will pop up and we can check Set as Tolder. So now we have two different charts that we can compare next to each other. And I can see pretty quickly at a glance where my greatest expenditures are, where my greatest sources of revenue are, and I'm able to have a really frank conversation with my board about where we need to be investing more money.
So low emissions then?
Yeah, maybe you're right, Life. Actually, that's something we might want to dig into a little bit more. So for our next section, we're going to use tree maps to talk about the breakdown of different ticket prices. Now, I'm sure you've all experienced this when you've gone to a museum. There's a bunch of different categories you could buy your tickets at on site, but you could also buy them online. And tree maps are a great way to visualize these hierarchies in your data, these sets of relationships. So we're going to go ahead and build a tree map off this data set. So I'll select this data, and then I'll come back up here to the Insert tab, and I'll select this tree map icon. And when we insert this chart, we instantly have a tree map created. Now the only thing is that this is colored red and yellow, green and red to start. And those are really useful colors to signify as positive and negatives like we saw on the previous chart, but they're not so useful when we're just trying to understand kind of a comparison relationship. It's a little misleading. It signifies that something might be off or negative, and really we're just trying to understand. So if we go up here to the legend, we can actually click on this on-site little button, and we can change the fill color right here from the format pane. And or actually, we can right click on it and do it from here. That's a better move. So we'll choose blue. That's a little bit more neutral. And now we have a really good view of this green side, which is all online ticket sales, and the blue half of this chart, which represents on-site ticket sales. And within each of those groups, we can see a breakdown between adult ticket sales, senior ticket sales, student IDs, military ticket sales. It looks like these are maybe group ticket sales. So we get a much more nuanced picture about where sources of, what sorts of groups the museum has been targeting.
Okay, nice. Can you do like things like, it's hard when you see what's kind of on-site, online kind of grouping here as well, banner for as well? What do you think?
Yeah. So sometimes we want to draw a clear distinction that this whole green area, this whole blue area isn't both on-site and adult, and these others aren't on-site. So we can use a banner on top of that chart to better communicate that information clearly. So if I select my chart area and I right-click, I can select Format Data Series. And under these series options, we can select Banner. And now we can actually clearly see a distinction that, yes, all of these values on the left-hand side of the chart are representing online values, and on the right-hand side, these on-site values. So now I've gotten a lot more data about my customer base and what types of tickets we've sold, but I don't have a lot of information about how much each of those tickets were priced at. And that's a really important thing for me to understand if I'm trying to increase my revenue. So for that, I can use a histogram to visualize the distribution of our ticket pricing. And so once again, with a couple of these different chart types, you've been able to make them before in Excel, but we've never given you the tools to directly build this quickly. So if I have my data selected here, I can come back up to the Insert tab, and under this blue icon, we can select a histogram. And when we do that, I can immediately see a distribution for all the different ticket prices that we have our packages sold at for SAM. But there's this really long tail here of clearly low frequency values. So you can see over here that we sold 35,000 tickets in this sort of $0 to $1 range. But we haven't sold so many up on this higher range. So I'd like to focus this data in a little bit more so I can get a better look. And when I select this bottom axis, I right-click on it, and I select Format Axis, and I can actually go in and change the way I've done my binning on the histogram. So I'd like to add an overflow bin. So any values over, say, 23, I'd like to group together, and any values under, let's say, 7, I'd like to group together as well. And then now, so we just shrink this down a little bit, I'm going to change the bin size to 2. So every bar here represents a $2 range in ticket prices, except for this underflow bin and this overflow bin over here. And now, very quickly, I can see that we're selling a bunch of tickets under $7, which is really pretty cheap. So on the one hand, that makes the museum super accessible. You can see for the vast majority of tickets, everything is under $23. But maybe this isn't the most sustainable model for ticket sales.
Right.
So we obviously know that there's a lot of people who are interested in the Seattle Art Museum in the Washington and Seattle area, but we don't really know a ton about how those ticket sales break down across the region. So we can use our 2D region maps to demonstrate this. So in the past, to visualize geospatial data, you've needed to include latitude and longitude information. Now, with our Excel 2D region maps, you can include information about zip codes, regions, countries, states, or cities, and Excel will automatically detect from your data that this is geospatial and help create a map for you. So it's
actually not cities yet.
Not cities
We'll get there.
yet,
But
we're getting there. So I can select anywhere in this data, and I can insert up here from the Excel ribbon using this Maps icon. And when I do that, I immediately get a chart that's filled as a chloroplast map and shows different values of revenue generated per zip code in the state of Washington. And we can select this chart and right-click on it to go to Format Data Series. And then we can actually add map labels here. And we'll select Best Fit Only, because we don't want to maybe see all of our labels all at once. And now we'll have just a few extra data labels added on top of this map. And we can see certainly here that there's a lot of revenue generated around the Seattle area, which makes sense. It's a big urban center. But there's also a lot of revenue generated out here in zip code 98926. Is anybody local and know where that is in the state? So that's actually Ellensburg, Washington. It's out in eastern Washington. But this chart gives us some good insight into something we didn't know before, which is that we have a lot of people who are willing to make the trek over to Seattle to come see exhibits. And maybe that's a great place to continue to focus more marketing dollars and attention.
Can you change the colors to be more than the two values? Or?
Yeah, you can. So if you go back here over to Format Your Data Series, you can change the way you've colored your map under Series Color. So we offer both the ability to do sequential colors, but also now you can do diverging colors. And we have several different options for if you want to set minimums, min points, and maximums based on specific values, based on numbers, based on percentages. So there's a lot of different choices we've added in there.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the first time in Excel we had this notion of having column of value in Excel too. So first thing first, so interesting to see.
Yeah.
Cool.
So to close up our discussion of maps, we've spent a lot of time talking about tickets and attendees, and you're all at a huge data visualization summit right now and data analytics summit. So we actually took some of our attendee data and we wanted to visualize where all of our different attendees are coming from. So just like before, we can select on this table of data and select Insert. And right away, we have a map that just gives us a great bird's eye view of where our attendees are coming from. So obviously we have a lot of people who are coming from the US, but definitely people coming from all over the world as well. So we'd like to dig into this a little more, and we can use a tool called Slicers to do that. But before we start, we want to make sure we select our data and go in here to Format Plot Area. And
area.
We can go under Chart Area. Thanks, Live. And one thing that you may have noticed using our charts before is that if you don't actually change the settings to prevent your chart from resizing when you filter your data, your chart will kind of shrink and resize in ways that are a little bit funny. So you want to go under this sizing icon right here, and under Size, Properties, we want to select Don't Move or Size with Cells. So now our aspect ratio is going to remain locked here. So what are slicers? Slicers are a really user-friendly way for you to interact with your data as you filter it. I really like using these just because I think they're a little bit friendlier than some of the filter UI that we have built in. So just to go back here for a second, I go to Insert, and then I select Slicer under Filters. And under Insert Slicers, I can choose what category, what field I want to filter my data by. So I'm going to choose Continent. And right away, Excel's created some great UI for me to just point and click on. So when I select Europe, for instance, our map chart should filter so that I can see the whole thing.
Great.
Maybe we can try North America instead.
That's great. Oh,
There we go. Okay. Takes a couple seconds to load. Yeah, so now the map has actually like resized itself to fit directly to whatever filter we've applied. So maybe let's see if Europe works now. Perfect. Okay. So rather than keeping the zoom at the entire world, if you really wanted to dig into a specific region that's smaller, now the map has resized, but also the coloring as well. So whereas before, I think the highest count of country was 1834 for attendees from the US. Now when we filter to Europe, you can see that it's scaled to 27 for the UK. So with that, Life's going to take it away with some more visualization tools that you can bring into your Excel workflow.
Cool, thanks, Marilyn. Okay, so we talked to a lot of people. I think last year we had about 12,000 people we surveyed about what kind of features and chart types you want to see in Excel. Some of those chart types are what Marilyn talked about right now, like region maps, histogram, and so forth. And other things are like Gantt chart, people like are using project or for project stuff there. And they also have like things like features like conditional formatting, reference line, richer data labels, and so forth. And some of the things we are building in, as we did right now with chart types, and some things you actually can do today in Excel today as well. So I'm going to show some tips and tricks how to do those things in Excel today. So we're going to talk about 4 things. One is more richer data labels, kind of custom data labels. We talk about how to create a Gantt chart in Excel. We can create some dynamic reference lines, in this case, abandoned regions in Excel, and we can do some conditional formatting in charts. It's good? Yes. Okay, so let's go into demo mode. 2 seconds here. Tips and tricks. Okay, you can see okay? Awesome. Okay, so the first thing we're looking at is data labels. How many guys use data labels for your Excel chart today? Great, that's great. You are a good bunch of people. So what we're going to do right now is showing some data for scattered chart. So scattered chart is good to show values between X and Y on the scattered chart. So in this case, we're looking at some categories we're selling. Maybe we're selling in the store, in the SAM store. And we're looking at the sales and profit. So to create a scattered chart, of course, I'm going to change these, select these 2 values and insert a scattered chart. Nothing new about those. And I have now my scattered chart shown off, showing kind of trend of profit and loss for these particular categories. Now, I want to always add data labels to this scattered chart. And today, you do that by clicking on the plus sign and click data labels. And that will give you kind of the value, in this case, the X value, the Y value for all the different values. But it doesn't help me so much. I want to see the text for each of those categories as well.
But Life, you didn't select that text when you created the chart, right?
That's right. So right now you see this is not included here, right? So we have the ability to actually add custom labels into our chart as well. And to do those things, you let's go to data labels and actually use more options. And we have this option here. We're going to take away the Y value and say value from cell. Now, value from cell actually allows you to take data from other places in Excel and put it onto your workbook itself. So right now, I can just choose select data table range and check the range of categories. And now I will see all the values plotted on my chart as well. So I can do this last thing here, just scale it out. And now it's easier to see which each category is in the scatter chart as well. So it's a different way of using data labels today. Okay, so that was kind of the scatter chart part of it. So let's now look at the Gantt data. So Gantt chart is of course used for often in project reporting, you guys know for today, and people use this for project, or they use it planner or in other places as well. So now often people track the tasks in Excel. So to create those things, we have to use a bar chart today. We have that functionality. We have to do tips and tricks around those things too. So let's get started. So we have here a set of tasks for a product launch. And we have a start date that we start each of these tasks, and we have duration for each of the tasks. And what I want to do is actually visualize those things in a chart in Excel. So I will do this by using a horizontal stacked bar chart. Now, I can do this by actually starting from the data itself, but in this case, our algorithms for creating the default chart is going to take all the columns and not the right way. So I can start from a blank chart right now, from a blank canvas to work on. So I'm going to click Insert, and I'm going to use my my stacked bar chart. So of course, it's a snowball chart, we call it internally. So I want to add now data to this chart, and I do that by using the select data dialog. There's two ways adding data for this way, either by just right-clicking and choose select data, or in the design itself, just look select data. So now in this dialog, I can add additional series I want to plot on this chart. So the first thing I want to do is add a duration series. So I'm going to click on Add Series, and click the duration name, and then I want to add the range here, which is all the duration stuff. So far, nothing special about it. We have all the durations of all the tasks on the project as well. The next thing I want to do is add the start date. So dates in Excel, as you may or may not know, is just numbers starting from, so I remember, it's 1904 or 1900, first date, right? And also just values for ourselves. So if I'm not adding my dates here, I might want series here, which is my start date. And I'm going to add my series start here. There we go. I've now added all these dates as kind of values in the chart itself, which doesn't make sense at all, but that's what we're doing right now. So we added kind of two charts on top of each other.
So Leif, when you added those values, why did the chart type change? Like now it's orange. It looks like maybe there's another series laid over it. That doesn't look right.
Yeah. So right now there's basically two series here, and we have something called C value in charts. That basically is how we paint or lay out the chart, each individual chart. So I can change that C order by using these buttons here. I can just move up. Now we see, okay, now we're getting all the kind of order of the chart to come each other, right? So I know the chart, the dates that come before the duration. So almost there. I also want to have, of course, the task names, because that's going to help my chart in the first place. So I can click my categories here and choose all my tasks. Okay, so now it's getting better. I have my kind of customer satisfaction and customer research stuff. Okay, so that's kind of done with data log here.
But the only thing that isn't so helpful about that is these tasks actually go in reverse order, right?
That's right. So a very common way to do in bar chart is to kind of change the order. So we always kind of we want to have the kind of reverse order. So the first thing comes first. So I click on the axis, and in this task pane, we can now choose to use categories in the reverse order. So now I'm getting closer and closer to what I'm looking for. So now this all is ordered in correctly. The other thing is my date started on 1/1/2016, right? That's my start date.
Yeah, but that doesn't look like it's matching up with your data labels for your dates, right?
So
your axis labels.
Yeah. So go to my axis, which is basically my bound. So I can use the bounds to connect with starting point for my axis as well. Now, in this case, you see this as numbers here, right? 42,350, which happened to me. I know that 42,370 is the start date of 2016. And I got my 2016, but basically this is the internal date values for dates in Excel as well. So that's almost there. I have my date for it. I also know that my days are 7 days, right? There's 7 days in the work week. So I'm going to put this into my 7-day work week, and almost there. So now I have my my Gantt chart showing all the values per day, per seven work days. And last thing I want to do is just remove this thing, and I just click on it and choose fill to be no fill color. And now you can have a Gantt chart in Excel using just the regular bar chart itself. Okay. Of course, I want to do things right now. I want to add if I want to add data labels here to help me to see how I want to do this to be show how duration is going to be. So I'll do that right as well. There we go. And now I can see each duration for the chart and for the things in the Gantt chart, and it was dynamically updated as you update things in Excel as well. If you want more fancy, you can now add actually same thing with the kind of work done as well. So you can have more stacks as well to do the same thing. Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay. The next thing I'm going to show, so that was kind of Gantt chart and some of the custom data labels. Next thing I'm going to show is adding reference lines. So reference lines are useful, especially if you have like a line chart or anything else there. And the reference line or banner regions allow you to kind of visually in the see where if I'm on or off target itself. Okay, so let's go into to reference lines. And what I have here is basically I weighted some widgets, I guess. And I have my weight itself. I have my lower bound, my target, and my upper bound for this particular widget. So what I'm going to do now is just add these items to my chart. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm going to add my line chart here, which is insert the line chart. That's actually what I'm looking for. Let's just add this here. Insert a line chart. And I can see now, of course, my part weight. There's like a nice trend of this particular weight itself. And what I do right now, I'm going to add a reference line. So there is different ways of doing those things. Some people just add shapes to it. Some people do, manual shapes to it. But we're going to use something called error bars to actually make this more dynamic. How many of you guys use error bars today? 1, 2 people. Awesome. My people. Anyway, so error bars just can show the variation of data as well. But in this case, we use a fixed value for it. So let's add one more thing. Let's just target first. So you can do this. You're going to add one more data series here. So I'm going to add my, select my data as well. And I'm going to add a series name is targets. And I'm going to add the series here, which is all my 100 values. Perfect. Now what you see is basically a line reference line which is 100, which is not what I'm looking for, but it's a starting point for me. What I want to do now is a band around those things, which is basically 20 points above and 20 points below, to kind of get the band of my line itself. So to do those things, I select the reference line, the line itself, and I add something called error bars. And this is going to use more options for the error bars, so just going to add more options here. So you see right now, actually is by default something like this. We can change these error bars certain settings. Let me see if I can scroll over here so you can see. So the first thing you're asking for is direction. The direction just means above, below this particular line. So in this case, I'll use both. And then the question is going to be if you kind of style in the end. You have no cap or no cap, and no cap or cap. And to do this, in this case, we just have no cap because we just have a long bar for ourselves. And then we can choose different ways to do the error bar as well. But in this case, use a fixed value. And it said 20 just means we're going to have 20 value 20 across the top and bottom of this line as well. Okay, so it's almost there. We see at least an outskirt of this bar itself. So now we can go into our fill color and choose the color to be, let's make it light green maybe, and then we can make a thickness here to be 20. And now we have basically a dynamic reference line for us in the system. And we probably don't need to have this reference here again, so we just choose no line. And now we have this reference bar or bar in the line chart itself. We can do the same thing for lower and outer boundaries as well. So then that's going to repeat the same thing. So that'll be something like this, basically, where I have my chart. Go here. And now I can see my my top and bottom of my chart up as well. Then. And of course, as I change the values in Excel, this will update dynamic as well. Then. Okay. So the one thing I want to do in this particular chart as well is I want to add kind of my max value as a data label. So often it's hard to, if I add like my data label for each of them, I can just do right now and choose plus data labels. And of course, that's going to show all the data labels in the chart, and that's what I'm looking for all the time when I have them more dynamically. So let's take so off. So do those things. We added actually a new features coming next month, something like that, for these people on Office 365, which basically is today, if you don't want to plot a value in Excel, you use pound NA in your chart to do it. But the problem is that if you have a function in that cell and you show it to pound A, we will still kind of plot a 0 value for it. So we added right now a feature to actually turn off them, so treat all pound NA values as blank values. So that's a new feature that we added in our all the charts right now. So I can click here right now and choose my select data. There's a new feature here called unhidden, very hidden feature called show NA as empty cells. And that basically is choose those as a blank values in the chart type. I was looking this morning about on, I think on Stack Overflow. I think the post about adding those things are 340,000 views. So it's a lot of popular demand for this feature in Excel as well, first place. Anyway, it allows you to do certain things like this. So I can now go into my cell. I want to add one more thing here, which is going to add my max value, which I know is I created here. And I want to add my values to be these dynamically created, right? This is my link for it. There we go. Now, of course, where's my chart now? There we go. Nothing's there because I didn't add yet. I added, but I didn't show anything yet because we have data labels for it. So I'm going to go and format this chart area and choose my max series. And now, let's do better again. Use my max series here. And now we're going to do add data labels there. And then let's just change this to be a marker here to make it maybe a actually built-in value of green. Then we want the fill color to be something else. Make it blue. And the border maybe to be a white color right there. There we go. There. And then we want to have this to be on top, maybe. So there we go. And now, basically, we have dynamic kind of data labels is always added for you as well. Then another way doing technique there is to do things like the last value, the first value is going to come way to do data labels as well. Then, so it's kind of a dummy series for doing data labels for you in this case as well. Okay. Last tip. We're going to go and look at conditional formatting. So conditional formatting is very common in Excel today, of course, in all cell values. People use that. So what you're going to do right now is how do we add conditional formatting to charts? So one way of doing those things is adding a set of ranges we want to format differently. So right now I have a chart before. I want to actually create a column chart here to see my different chart types, my different values. And this shows me kind of the sales of each of these different categories I'm looking for, right? So clearly chocolate is the highest seller, which makes sense. I like chocolate too. But it's hard for me to indicate the profit. I can, if I want to, add this to my series like this. And now basically it's two series to compare itself to see what's high or low. But in this case, I want to actually add this as a color, kind of color coding itself. So let's go back and actually take this away. Sorry. So that's just the sales. And then I want to add a set of ranges. So I'm a little bit cheated here, but I'm going to take this range up here. So this basically is my, there. What I'm looking there basically is the ranges of profits. So I know some profit are between $0 and $100, some between 100 and 200, some between 200 and 300, and so forth. And then I want to see how I can actually make those each of the different sales values be targeted in those series. So I create a simple formula, which basically is an if statement to check if it's in certain range. So let's just add this to this to my chart, to my table. So I'll copy this here. And then let's put it into the cells here. Control V and then Control Enter to add this formula to all the cells. So I can see now which kind of where these cells, which profit range is coming from. Okay, so now I've had at least one starting point for it. So I have kind of these different columns now for profit. Now the next thing I want to do is add these ranges to my chart itself. So to do those things, I'm going to select the chart, and then I'm going to just move the chart over here and select multiple series. So now we have kind of 5 different series on it. Again, it doesn't look so nice because there's different colors and they're very tiny, because all I'm doing right now is plotting the kind of the values, the non-empty values. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlap these series of each other. So to do that thing, I can click on my series and for my data series, and I can choose now how much this overlap each other. So now I want to overlap 100%, right? Because that's what I'm looking for. So I can make it 100%. And maybe a little bit less kind of gap with itself. Okay, so now we have the notion of kind of different colors for each of the series. The thing I want to do, of course, is I want to see more the darker color should be the higher number and the lighter color should be the lighter number. And I can do those things by changing the color of the chart itself. So let's go in the color here and choose color. And I think there's a blue is a nice color for me for some reason. So now I see kind of the indication of what's kind of the darker and lighter color in this chart itself. And the last thing I'm going to do is add legend so I can know which each color means, right? That makes sense. So we have now in Excel, Excel has been there, add legend for it. It should add legend if something else happened right now. Why, oh why, oh why, oh why. Great. Never seen before, right? Okay. Cancel that. Fear not. Actually, yeah, let's do this instead. Okay. That's the fun part of doing dog fooding internally. Let's see now. Let's close this up. Let's see. Okay. Let's try again. You don't give up. And then add legend. And now you can see basically the color categories we had before, right? So this is just taking the values of a cell, which is basically ranges. I can see now clearly that, hey, chocolate is the highest and highest profit. But my syrup is actually lacking a little bit more, right? It's pretty high price sales, but low profit. So it's kind of how we do conditional formatting in a chart in Excel as well. So, Marilyn?
So with that, just to recap with all the ground we've covered today, we talked in depth about several of our new chart types, including Waterfall, Treemap, Histogram, and 2D region maps. Life just walked you through data labels, creating Gantt charts, conditional formatting, and banded regions and reference lines. To recap on our new pound in A value feature.
Right, yeah, so this is something, again, a lot of people ask for it, and it gives us much more control of the chart in Excel as well. So often people use now just formulas like the equal NA, and we can now actually choose to not show or hide these features in the chart as well. And it should be out in the next couple of months for Excel people on Office 365.
So to point you to a list of our resources that are available, we've been doing a lot of work to update our learning content recently. So please make sure to check out some of these websites, and particularly as well our Excel community. We've been doing a lot more vandalism recently, and we'd really love to have you contribute your thoughts, ask questions. It's a great way for us to get feedback on the product. And in particular, one that's not called out on here, but which you can find through one of these sites, is our user voice website. And if you have feature requests, we highly recommend you go and upvote them there. We'll also be posting information about new feature releases on any of these channels as well.
Okay, cool. How many of you guys actually on Excel community? You guys use that or nobody? One person? Two?
Hey, awesome.
Nice.
So we have a couple more sessions coming up this afternoon. One of them I will definitely recommend at 1:30 is the tips and tricks for working with data in Excel. I know these two, Maha and Annie, have some really, really great stuff to share with you there as well. So just to review, all of the keynote sessions and breakout sessions will be on demand and posted by June 27th. As well, if you go to aka.ms/summit prize, we'll be doing a giveaway for the Data Insight Summit. You could win a book signed by Alberto Cairo, a book signed with keynote speakers Stephen Levin and Stephen Dubner, or a lunch with Alberto Cairo. That sounds pretty cool, Life. Mm-hmm. So we'd ask that you evaluate this session as well. You can go to aka.ms/MDIS17 schedule to fill out evaluations. This feedback's really important, helps us make the content more relevant for you going forward in future years. So thank you. Now we'd welcome to take any questions you guys have.
Why is it crashed? I'm not sure, actually. I'll find out. But sometimes I have seen issues lately when we have internally, when we have some re-rendering of a chart, but you shouldn't see it externally. Okay, this is all these builds are kind of my latest build from Microsoft right now, so we're testing internally. But I don't know. If you see those things, email me. Okay.
Any of those advanced charts going into our pivot charts?
The map and the histogram, those things. Yeah, so that's a good question. So the question is, will any of these charts go into Power BI as well? So right now, the waterfall...
Power BI or Power Pivot?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay, let me rephrase it. The question is, can I use Power Pivot on those charts right now? Currently, you cannot. Currently, it's just sheet data. It's definitely on a roadmap to support Power Pivot data and pivot data as well right now. So the way to work around it today is just using a cell reference to your pivot data or kind of queue functions for it. But yes, that's right. That's right. That's right. So it's definitely a big ask for customers today to add it. Thank you. Other questions? Okay. Thank you very much, guys, for coming this morning. Enjoy the rest of your sessions.